and she starts telling me how she's following all these Beachbody coaches and that she's just fascinated by the way they tell their stories on social media. So it turns out this woman is a social scientist, and she works at the University of Florida in this strategic communications academy. And this group, they work with scientists, they work with content creators, they work with leaders, they work with nonprofit organizations to teach them the science of strategic communication and storytelling. So she tells me, this woman, that it is a goal of hers to speak in front of an audience of Team Beachbody coaches. So I say, okay, and I want to make sure that she's credible, so I do a little research on her, and it turns out that she's worked with YouTube influencers, she's worked with the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees, the United States Defense Department, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundations. So pretty impressive stuff. She has her work's been featured in the Stanford Social Innovation Review, The Conversation, Salon, the Huffington Post. I learned she's about to get her doctorate degree in a couple weeks. So I guess she has the qualifications to come and speak to all of you. And I almost said no, but there was one thing that kind of put it over the top. And that was that the reason she was able to track me down on our family vacation was that she's actually part of my family. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage an expert in the science of strategic communication and storytelling, a soon-to-be doctor, and my lovely niece, Annie Neimand. So Annie, I just have to tell you, for the last 10 years or so, I've been setting a very low and consistent bar of Neimands on stage. So just don't raise the bar too high because I'm going to have to come back out here.
Okay, suck.
Okay, go ahead.
Thanks also for totally ruining my cool factor. Now you know I'm obsessed with all of your channels. Cool. So like Michael said, I work with organizations to apply the science of how people think and how people behave to their work in order to make the world a better place, to make it a healthier place, a more just place, a place that we all want to live in. I should also say, which this isn't going to be a surprise now, that I have a really deep obsession with how fitness and exercise and health influencers use their social media platforms for good. I'm a sociologist, so I'm sort of obsessed with observing people and watching patterns and that sort of thing. This obsession started about 4 years ago. I was in love, and I was getting ready for my wedding, and I decided I need to go on my own health transformation. I need to get in shape for my wedding. And so I got on social media, I started following different influencers who were working in this space, other young women who were looking to get in shape, and I ordered my very first workout DVD. It arrived at my house, I ripped open the package, I pulled out all of the DVD options that I had, and I picked one and I put it in, and I did my very first 21-day fix workout. And since then, I've loved working out. Because I'm a scientist, I like to bring evidence. So, this is me. Getting my ass kicked joyfully by Shalene as I got ready for my wedding. But collectively, that's just going to play until I hit the next slide, I guess. Pay attention to me. Okay, but collectively, what I'm most obsessed with is using everything we know from behavioral science and cognitive science and social science and sharing that with people who are in the field trying to make the world a better place. And we need that more than ever. We as a society face so many challenges that can be prevented or addressed if we use strategic communications rooted in what science tells us works. For example, we know that we have a rising rate of obesity. People are struggling with heart disease. There are many people struggling with some cancers that are preventable, and there are a lot of people who struggle with mental illness. But we also know that these challenges that are facing our society, while there are social factors that make it hard for people to address them by themselves, there are things that we as individuals can do to fight these things. The Centers for Disease Control tells us that regular physical activity is one of the most important things any individual can do for their health. So the number one thing any of us can do to prevent these diseases and these challenges is take control over our lifestyle. People who work in integrative medicine and a number of the physicians that I've had the opportunity to work with at the University of Florida tell us that food and exercise are medicine. Right? Yay! We also know that when we feel good, we do good. I had the opportunity to talk with Abigail Marsh, who is a neuroscientist at Georgetown University, and she studies what makes a society more altruistic. They're more likely to volunteer, they're more likely to give, they're more likely to become donors. And what she found across time, across culture, is that the two things that make a society more likely to give and do good is when individuals feel like they have a strong sense of well-being, and when individuals feel like they have a strong sense of self. Now, this isn't a surprise to everyone in the room, but one of the things that we could do to help people have a strong sense of self and a strong sense of well-being is help them change their lifestyle, right? So I'm most excited to be here because I'm in a room of people who can help others begin a path to change their lifestyle. And when we do that, they'll not only protect themselves from these health challenges, but they will also make the world a better place. Over the summer, I had the privilege to work with these 50 content creators in London at YouTube. And these content creators are from all over the world, from Texas to Saudi Arabia. And YouTube brought them together because collectively, they have millions and millions of followers. They are very influential. And they wanted them to use their platform to fight hate speech and xenophobia. But what's so interesting about this particular program is that these their channels are not necessarily tied to hate speech and xenophobia. These are people who have, makeup tutorial videos, and people who have travel blogs and do bedroom blogging. But what YouTube knew, and what science also tells us works, is that they were able to bring people in through their shared interests and introduce something new, a way to fight hate speech and xenophobia. Research tells us that the messenger is the message. And that's why that YouTube campaign, or that YouTube camp is so powerful. Because YouTube knew that those messengers would be most important in getting out the message that we need to fight hate speech and xenophobia. So why are messengers important? Well, research says messengers are important for 3 reasons. First, we self-select our messengers. People choose you. They want to hear from you. And because they choose you, they trust you more than other people. And so as a messenger, you have more credibility and more authenticity, and you're more trustworthy. We also know that when we receive information from messengers, we're more likely to be open to it. So if it's a new idea, if it's a new workout, if it's a new way of eating, we're more likely to be open to that idea if it's introduced to us through a messenger. And lastly, we look to messengers for new norms, new ways of doing things. We look at how they live their lives and the behaviors that they engage in, and then we seek to model them. So as messengers or influencers, you have the power to influence new ways of living, new ways of behaving to people who may not be open to those ideas otherwise. So that is why I'm so excited to be here, because I truly believe that more than the Centers for Disease Control, more than any health association, even maybe more than some physicians, you have the power to help people start living a healthy lifestyle. And if you do that, we can start to address some of those challenges we face and also make the world a better place. So I want to share with you 4 ways to use your platform for good. Many of you are already doing the things I'm going to share with you extremely well. I watch you guys and I cheer you on and I go, that's what science tells us we should be doing. That's so awesome. So congratulations, you're already doing it right. And for some of you who are thinking about how do I build my business and how do I help people adopt a healthy lifestyle, I hope that these 4 principles will be useful for you as you think strategically about what to do next. Are you ready for the 4 principles? Yes. Number 1, find your people. I love that. Social science tells us that we organize in social tribes, and the tribes that we run with influence the type of content that we're willing to engage with. So, as marketing scholars and marketing professionals will tell you, we need to think about our audience or our communities in segments. Not necessarily along demographic lines in terms of their race or their gender or their class, but think about segments in terms of how people see themselves. What identities are most important to them? I love the example that photo was connected to. There is a gym in Los Angeles called Nerd Strong Gym. Has anybody heard of Nerd Strong Gym? Nobody? That's because you're not nerds. Congratulations. If you're in Los Angeles, you would know that on every corner there is somewhere you can work out, from beautiful boutique fitness shops to big box gyms. But there was a group of people in Los Angeles who didn't see themselves in any of those spaces. They didn't feel like they could be themselves in those spaces. So a group of people saw that there was a segment of the population that they could serve, a segment of nerds, and they created a gym where they could let their inner nerd shine and start to live a healthy lifestyle. And the gym is set up in a way that they get to play games and connect with their community and do all the nerd things that nerds do. And that's because they were able to find their people and provide them value. I love this next example of a campaign that did a really great job of finding their people. Let's take a look.
Vão continuar assistindo o esporte. Que os seus pulmões continuarão respirando pelo esporte.
Prometo que o seu coração sempre baterá pelo esporte.
Hoje a maior dificuldade que existe no processo de doação é o sim da família.
Eu sou rubro-negro até depois de morrer, irmão. Minha alma é rubro-negra.
Ainda mais que quando eu doar meus órgãos, meu pulmão for pro cara do Náutico, torcedor do Náutico, ele vai respirar o esporte.
A campanha atingiu números impressionantes. 51 mil torcedores se declararam doadores, uma quantidade superior à capacidade da Ilha do Retiro.
A campanha do esporte, eu não tenho dúvida alguma que serviu para que, aumentando a oferta de doadores, a gente conseguisse zerar essa lista, conseguisse realizar o transplante em todos os estados precisando.
Uma campanha de doação de órgãos lançada pelo esporte está ajudando a salvar a vida de muitos torcedores.
Antes do vídeo, eu tinha passado 18 anos de diabetes e 5 anos fazendo diabetes. E a visão está melhorando, minha visão está voltando aos poucos. Estou renascido.
Provado o coração da sua mãe. Você pode trazer ela, com certeza. Eu entendo essa vida e poder ter.
I'm pretty sure everyone in Brazil has organs, right? I think that they do. Humans tend to have those things. So what's amazing about this campaign is that they didn't try to reach everybody. Instead, they said, who could we reach, and if we said the right thing to them, they would start doing something they're not doing now, and it would actually make a difference on this issue. So they found their people, they found their Brazilian soccer club fans. And that's what you need to do. You need to find your Brazilian soccer club fans. Once you find your people, you need to bring them value by entering their world. How many of you show up to a party, you walk in the room and go, "What up, party? I'm here. Who wants to talk to me? I'm super interesting." You don't do that? Nobody does that. Well, my Uncle Michael does that sometimes, but nobody else does that. It's weird. Nobody wants to talk to that person. No, what we do, we enter the room, we see who's there, we might join a group of people, they're having a conversation, we listen, and then when we have something of value, we contribute. That's what strategic communications is. It's pretty basic. And that's what you need to do. You need to listen to the conversations that are already happening within the tribe, that your group of people are having. And then I want you to think about your content as a gift. I want you to think about communication as something that you are giving to that community that can help them be a better version of themselves, or help them solve a problem, or is just entertaining and fun to engage with. Every single piece of content that you create should help them be a better version of themselves or solve a challenge. That's what it means to bring value. So I want to share another example. And this example is a documentary, and it's made by a group of people who were on a quest to spread veganism as a lifestyle. They knew that they didn't necessarily need to reach animal rights activists. They knew they didn't need to reach environmentalists. So they thought to themselves, that if we reached these people, we would actually make a difference on the issue. So let's take a look.
I was really expecting it to end my career.
When I made the transition, I wasn't sure if I was going to survive.
What we eat has a major impact on our health in every way we can measure. Today's blood, yesterday's blood.
Damn.
To think that these elite fighting machines were eating mainly plants went against everything I'd been taught about nutrition.
There's no one that can relate to this better than I do, because I've lived in that world.
I'm in it just to rewrite history, cause I'm in the mood to label us the leaders of the new school. This ain't for the radio, can't find this on YouTube. This the type of killing that these critics say used to. Victorious.
I love this example. We know that within the fitness world, there's this belief that you must eat protein in order to get strong. Imagine if you could shift how the top influencers in that industry thought about how you get strong, right? You reach the top bodybuilders, the strongest people in the world, the elite athletes, and you talk to them about veganism, and then through their message and their story, they spread this new behavior that could help us see a world where more people are vegan. So the next principle is that I would like you to tell your story. In general, though, we know that storytelling is the most powerful tool we have. More than any other form of communication, when we communicate in a narrative form, we're going to be much more effective. People are much more likely to remember the things that we're saying. Not many of us spend our weekend binging academic reports or infographics or, I don't know, some other boring sort of content, right? We binge stories, we binge Netflix, we binge Glow and Ozark. We turn the page all weekend in our favorite book because unlike any other form of communication, stories capture our attention. Researchers also tell us that when we're engaged in a really fantastic story, it lowers our inclination to counter-argue because we perceive less intent to try to persuade us or less intent in trying to sell us something. So when we can wrap our information in stories, we capture attention, people remember what we say, and they're more likely to truly engage with what we're saying. What does this mean for you as messengers, as influencers? Well, the people who are following you think about their own lives in a narrative form. Research from cognitive science tells us that we often think about the things that we do, our memories, what we're going to do in the future in a narrative form, right? When we look back at our memories, we sort of construct a story about it. When we look into the future and we're deciding what action we should take, we say, well, how does this fit within the narrative that I see for myself? We also know that they're following you because they're interested in your transformation story. They want your story. They want to know, how do you get up in the morning? What do you put in your smoothie? How do you motivate yourself to get off the couch? Are you struggling with fertility or friendship or relationships too? They are interested in your transformation story so they know how they can create their own. And so it's absolutely critical that when you are thinking about the content you're creating, you think about how you can create a narrative, or use your platform as a way to introduce story, or think of your life as a series where all of these pieces are laddering up to the narrative about your life and your transformation. Okay, and the fourth principle that I want you to take away is that we need to include calls to action. Research tells us that one of the reasons people don't adopt new behaviors that are in their best interest and that can potentially save their lives, is because they don't know how. They don't know where to start. They don't know what to do. So science provides us 5 elements that we must include when we think about the calls to action and how we create them. So first, we need to make sure our calls to action are specific, not abstract. There was a study done by Melanie Rudd, who's at the University of Texas, Austin, and she had 2 groups of participants. One group were told to go out and make their campus more environmentally friendly. Another group were told to go out and get more people to recycle a particular type of material. The group that had the more specific call to action were more likely to be successful, were more likely to feel good about themselves, and they theorized that they were more likely to engage in action in the future because they felt like they had achieved something. So make sure your calls to action are very specific. We also know that calls to action have to be meaningful. When calls to action feel like a drop in the bucket, like it's not going to really make a difference, then we're less likely to engage. There's a quote from Mother Teresa: if I look at the masses, I will never act. If I look at the one, I will. And what she knew, and what science tells us, is that when we look at something that seems so big and so hard to overcome, our minds just naturally shut off. That's what we have to do cognitively to engage with the information and go on with our lives. But if we can give people calls to action where they can see the difference they'll make in their own life or in someone else's life, they're much more likely to engage. People need to know how to do it, so you can't give them something that's really hard or not connected to their daily habits and routine. It needs to be something that they can actually do. If we think about, for example, the Montgomery bus boycotts that sought to desegregate the bus system in Montgomery, Alabama, the call to action wasn't end racism. The call to action wasn't end segregation. Where would you even start with that, right? The call to action was, don't ride the bus. And after a year of not riding the bus, after a year of carpooling and walking and taking bicycles, the bus system desegregated because people knew how to do that. And you guys know these last 2 principles very well. Create an opportunity for people to participate. Let them participate through challenges or hashtags and join conversations that are already happening online. I love something so simple as a step challenge. This really embodies all of those 5 calls to action. So I want you to think about these principles. If you're already doing them well, congratulations. You're doing exactly what science tells us you should be doing. Maybe you could brainstorm and play with them a little bit more. And if you're just new to coaching and you're trying to build your business, I encourage you to think about how you can apply these to your work. And if you do, I truly believe that we can make the world a more healthy and beautiful place. Thank you.